Donald Trump tapping into a well of voters that are fed up by the so-called establishment politicians while their outsider message is resonating with supporters. Can either candidate carry the momentum and win the general election? That's the question. Joining us now is Boris Epshteyn. He's a GOP strategist and former surrogate with the Romney campaign back in 2012 and McCain-Palin advisor in 2008. Also, Larry Cohen, senior advisor and surrogate to the Bernie Sanders campaign. He is the former president of the Communication Workers of America. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Explain. Do you believe that Trump, in a general election, not up against Bernie, though, we're going to talk to Bernie's guy in a second, but up against Hillary, can win, given the poll numbers?
Absolutely. Listen, we're 7.5 months out. There's a lot of time left from now till the general election on November 8th for Trump to pivot toward Hillary Clinton, which he hasn't done yet. The primary is still going on.
What does that pivot look like?
Very involved primaries. It looks like what we've seen since right before Super Tuesday for Trump. It looks like a softening of the message to a degree, which you can do over the next, there's going to be a lot of downtime, hopefully, once the Republican Party coalesces around Trump. So it really looks like a bit of a softening of the message, concentration on the issues, just like you saw with him on Israel, on foreign policy. And it looks like
you saw the Bill McGurn piece in the Journal today?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, listen, everybody's got opinions, right?
Right. But he said, Hillary is not exactly, she just lost 5 out of 6 states to a formidable candidate, Larry, no question there. But a little bit surprising that she's having trouble beating a 74-year-old socialist.
And the FBI thing is real. The FBI thing,
that's real.
There's over 100 agents assigned to this case.
When she started to talk to Trump about his treatment of women, he shut that down in a millisecond.
Imagine Trump in a debate versus Hillary. What does that look like? Hillary is a completely scripted candidate. She's a bad national candidate. She's only won 2 layup elections in her
60,
career.
Hillary's are 54 right now. So 60 and 54.
Pretty much within the margin of error,
exactly.
Right? So a couple points here, a couple points there. It's going to be a very close election. There's no doubt about it. But it's absolutely winnable for Trump.
You're the first Romney guy that's hasn't said, "Oh no, we're just trying to hold on to the Senate now." We've already written off this 2016. We're planning for 2020.
I really respect Romney. I was, fully behind him in 12. I think this was a mistake for him.
You do?
To come out against Trump that strongly, but it's played really well for Trump. Listen, the voters do not want the same candidates that they've seen. They want more authenticity than they've seen in the last 30 years. Hey, this is the best candidate we've had since Ronald Reagan.
Larry, explain this. If Trump is the candidate on the other side, is Bernie better than Hillary, and why?
Yeah, absolutely he's better than Hillary. He's polling far ahead of Hillary in that matchup or in a matchup with Cruz or anyone else on the Republican side. I think authenticity is key in this election, and Bernie has been in this same path his entire life, talking about economic justice, social justice. It can't just be markets. Although, ironically, for your viewers, he does believe in stimulation and economic growth compared to any of the other candidates. A reinvestment, whether it's canceling out student debt, investing in higher education, or any of the other parts of the economic program, it's all about stimulus. It's all about growth.
Where do you think we keep talking about the elites and how these candidates don't appeal to the elites. Where do the elites ultimately land?
Who are the elites, right? Talk about the Republican establishment. Am I part of the establishment? I was a McCain 08, surrogate for Romney. Am I part of the establishment? Is Christie part of the establishment? In the end, the Republicans will fall in line, including some of the elites. Some may stay home, but what are they going to do? They're going to vote for Bernie? Are they going to vote for Hillary? No, they're not. Republicans are going to fall in line behind the candidate. So, and all this talk right now is somewhere in 2000, there was a lot of talk to the McCain people who wouldn't support George W. Bush. And then they did. And that's what happens. Now, with the Democrats, I think it's completely up for grabs. And again, depending on what happens with this FBI thing, it could be really bad for Hillary.
Hold on. I thought we determined yesterday, you were the one who told me,
Hillary,
that you thought the FBI thing was coming to an end.
I do. There was the LA Times story.
I think that when they, I saw, who was that on yesterday? Ron Fournier on Morning Joe said that the bar, and this is, there's no legal statute that says a presidential candidate that the bar should have to be higher to bring criminal charges for something like this. But there is. De facto, there probably is a higher bar in the middle of a presidential election. And you've got a Justice Department that is part of the Obama administration going to decide whether a candidate is going to be able to continue the Obama legacy. There's no way they're bringing charges against her.
There's one thing
No
to
way.
remember, though. The Clinton-Obama relationship has been
That's
terrible
true.
for a long time.
That's true, but
there's a lot of tension there.
But it's in their
And
best interest.
If Obama wanted to sweep this under the rug, he could have done it and waited until after the election.
He did sweep it under the rug. He said that there's nothing there that's criminal, even though he hadn't seen any of
But
it.
the DOJ keeps coming out with more and more.
Hey, Larry, what do you do about this candidate, not this candidate, but rather this voter, the Wall Street voter who watches this show, who is traditionally a Democrat, who would normally vote for Hillary, but if your candidate wins, becomes much more complicated?
Well, again, I would say this is a candidate who's going to invest in America. We're talking about $1 trillion in infrastructure. We're talking about free higher education at public institutions. This stimulates the consumer back into the market. Consumers who are workers for the most part and haven't had a raise in 30 years.
Larry, here's one last thing. You know, Boris said that Donald Trump will also modulate his message if he gets to the general. Do you think that your candidate modulates the message?
I think our candidate, I think that Bernie's message works in a general election. That's why he polls so far ahead of the Republicans compared to Hillary Clinton, because he is talking about everyday issues: health care, higher education, new roads, schools, and bridges. And I think we stay in that path. No more regime change in terms of foreign policy.
Would you agree that both of your candidates are appealing to disaffected voters who feel like they have been lied to for years and years by the establishment?
I think that's part of who Trump appeals to. I think that's all who Sanders appeals to, and 18 and 19-year-olds. Trump appeals to a huge swath of the population, and he's going to bring in Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Going to have New York be wide open for a Republican candidate. It really is a game changer for us as Republicans. As far as Bernie's concerned, I don't understand why it's necessary to vilify.
Bernie.
Excuse me, let me finish. Why it's necessary to vilify the millionaires and billionaires as he does. There's really no reason to do that if you're trying to uplift America in some way. So I think
the goal isn't to vilify. The goal is to say to working Americans that you have a chance in this country too. That even though you haven't had a raise in 30 years,
is it assumed
in 30 years you haven't had a raise, that in fact this country belongs to you as well. It's not just about sending your kids into the service so that they have a chance. It's about jobs across the economy. It's about raising standard of living across the economy, not just for people on Wall Street.
They wake up early, they watch shows like this, they go to work, they come home late, and they wake up again. So there's really no reason in America to vilify any portion.
It's not about vilifying.
That's what Bernie's doing.
It's not about vilifying. It's about holding up everyday people, like the people I saw at the Carrier plant yesterday, who get told that despite the profits of United Technologies, in a year they're out of a job and the work is all going to Mexico. Those people want hope. They don't want to be told to just tune in and watch the markets go up or down.
Jobs should be in America, but don't vilify other people who employ a lot of folks.
The only person using the word vilify is you. We're not vilifying. We're trying to hold up everyday people so they have a chance as well.
Wall Street is a criminal enterprise and it's based on fraud. And, you know, you got a guy like Blankfein. He didn't inherit that money. His father was, I think, worked for the post office in the Bronx. So that's what you want, supposedly, Larry. You want people to be able to work, you know, be raised in the Bronx with your father in the as a postal worker who grows up and becomes a millionaire. What's wrong with that?
My family came here as immigrants in '93, and now I've been lucky enough to be successful. That's the American dream, isn't it?
No, the American dream is also that kids can go to college and not leave with $100,000 in debt that they don't pay off for the rest of their life. The dream is also that when people get sick and they're older, they don't get told, well, the choice is between the apartment you live in and the drugs you need to stay alive. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about vilifying as any central part of this campaign. This campaign is about restoring an American dream for immigrants and for people who have been here for generations. That's what it's about. That's what it will continue to be about.
It seems like the Sanders campaign is concentrating on people who do not know how America works, do not know how politics work, and don't know how business works, that actually it is those big businesses that employ people. If you go out there and say big business is terrible, banks are terrible, and economy is going to be terrible because there's no one less to employ anybody, where are you going to get jobs if all the people who you call millionaires and billionaires
as you well know, if I can get a sentence in, as you well know, this campaign is about investment. It's not about vilifying. It's about investment in infrastructure, investment in higher education, investment in health care for all, as opposed to what we have now, with 20% of every health care dollar is administrative.
It's
about bringing the United States into into the 21st century, where all the other economies are, and not
So it should be like
with
the
keeping
other
working people
economies
at
of
the
the world?
bottom.
Okay, gentlemen, we got to leave it there. Boris and Larry, in fairness to Larry, Trump has vilified a number of people along the way, but we do appreciate you being here. And Larry,
it's Hillary.
thank you. That's true, too.
All right. Coming up, a lot of mobile phone customers.